Hello and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Knits. My name is Rachel and today we are talking about fiber fever. I am currently wearing one of my hand knits. I know, can you believe it? I'm finally wearing something I made with my own two hands on this channel. This is a pattern by Sari Norland. It is called the Rainy Day Sweater. It's a beautiful sweater that you can either do in long sleeves or you can do short sleeves or long sleeves. I chose the short sleeves. I actually really like the fact that it's short sleeves because it's a pretty warm sweater. It's perfect for that interchangeable weather that we have where it's really cold in the morning and warm in the afternoons or late evenings or early evenings, I should say. So it's been a wonderful addition to my wardrobe and I'm so glad I took the time out to make it. One of my favorite features of this particular pattern are the raglan increases. While you're doing the raglan increases, you're also doing this beautiful cable going down and it just looks stunning. Both the cables both in the front and the back as well. So it's been an enjoyable knit and I'm so glad I have this in my wardrobe that I can add to the wonderful clothing I wear on a day-to-day basis. So in addition to this object I wanted to talk about, I really want to talk to you all about is my fiber fever. Are any of you dealing with this right now? Are you someone who is suffering from fiber fever? Here's my symptoms. I'm obsessing about my knitting projects. I'm desperate to cast on a new one. I just cast on even though I have too many that I need to work on. In addition, I am buying yarn that I don't know what to use for. I'm also buying patterns that I have no time to work on, and I'm signing up for knit-alongs that I'm already participating in other really major intricate knit-alongs that there's just no way that I can do all of it. This is what's happening. So here's the issue with my fiber fever. I blame it on this thing we're doing with our children called quiet time. And so in the morning, I take our sons to school and it's about a 45-minute drive from our house to their school. In the first 20 minutes of the drive, it's quiet time. It's my time to kind of reset my mind and get myself mentally prepared for going to work. And hopefully it's a time for the boys to either wake up if they're feeling sleepy or use this as an opportunity to read or just relax and enjoy the car ride. My oldest, my 11-year-old, uses the time to read his book, whereas my 8-year-old will occasionally read, but often he's just tapping his little fingers, just waiting to speak because he is definitely a morning person. He wants to talk about all the things and do all the things. And I'm like, child, I am not awake right now. So anywho, during this quiet time is when I've been obsessing about particular projects. And my first obsession, which is my whip, is the Ooey Gooey. Now, the Ooey Gooey is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. Every year, well, I shouldn't say every year, I believe she's been doing it for the last 6 years, the Rhineback sweater, where she knits this beautiful, intricate pattern that brings everyone together. You have a great time talking with one another within the forum that she's created, and it's just such a great time. I had so much fun last year knitting the Rhineback sweater last year. I was like, I knew I was going to be doing the Rhineback sweater this year. And she did not disappoint. I was very pleased when I saw the pattern because there are some, like the App and Glow, I didn't like that pattern, so I didn't cast on. And I joined the thread, but I never cast on. I just enjoyed the commentary. But then with the frame sweater, I loved it the second I saw it. I knew it would be perfect, as well as the tessellated vest. So I am so pleased that the Ooey Gooey is meeting my expectations. This is the second one I'm making. So with the first one I made for my sister-in-law, which she will be getting hopefully this weekend, because I just remembered she and I have plans, and I think, okay, I'll figure that out. But anywho, this is the Ooey Gooey sweater. And with mine, I have one sleeve finished and I did the tubular bind off and I did mine a little different. I made some modifications for the sleeve, for the color work portion, excuse me. I decided to do more of the dot than the part of the design where it made like this like U shape. I didn't really like it. To be honest with you, I forgot to read the rest of the pattern. I just decided like, I know what to do next. And I ended up making 2 dots. But in the end, I like, you know what? I like it. I'm going to keep it. So I kept it. And so this is the final version of it. And I was able to write down all my notes so I can do the exact same thing on the second sleeve. So I decided to do something a little different with keeping track of my decreases, I decided just to measure and then count the rows in between. And then I wrote that all down into the notes that I'm keeping in my knit companion. And that's been helpful to me. And I was able to maintain the same length as well as the same rate of decreasing for the second sleeve. Because initially I was going to do the two sleeves at the same time. It was my plan. I even had the needles all ready to go, but I just forgot. I forgot to do that. And I ended up grabbing the short circular needles and ended up casting on and moving forward with it like this. So it's coming along really well. I am on the almost the finish line with the sleeves. I have all the decreasing done. I did the first dot. I need to do the second dot, and then I will be doing hopefully the tubular bind off tonight. That is my goal. It is definitely getting all tingly because I'm using two strands of what is this? Knitting for Olive. They're merino. I really like this yarn. I mentioned this already in one of my YouTube videos, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I can definitely see why so many knitwear designers, especially specifically Veronica Lindbergh, decides just to use knitting for Olive and holding it double, because it's a much more enjoyable knitting experience than I found with with their other knitting for Olive. Not to say there's anything wrong with the yarn. I just didn't find it to be as enjoyable. I found it to be too thick. So anywho, I digress. I am loving this pattern. I'm so close to being finished, and I'm so relieved I'm going to be finished because my mind is on every other pattern. From that little rosy sweater that's everyone's talking about that has like 180 something project. No, it has 130 projects on Ravelry. Although the rating's really low, it still is like calling my name saying, think about it, cast it on. So that's on my radar. Then Stephen West came out with his Shawl make along as well. And I'm like, now I want to knit that. With that particular make along, it looks like it's going to call for 4 skeins of fingering weight yarn, which is about 100 grams. And I definitely think I can do that. But the issue is I'm already knitting a shawl. So let me tell you about the other shawl that I'm knitting. This is a shawl by Lisa Ross. It's called Coming Together, and it's stunning. I loved it from the first time I saw it on my Ravelry. I'm like, this is it. I want to knit it. And then Needles at the Ready made a custom order of yarn for me, and I'm like, this is it. I'm really ready. So this is another reason why my fiber fever is like taking hold of me, because all I'm doing while I'm driving in the car is thinking about how much I wish I could be knitting on this lovely shawl so far. Now, why I find this shawl to be so engaging, number one, is that you're doing something different for each section. You start off with section 1, where you're doing almost like a garter, but you're also decreasing. And it's intended to be small. What's not intended to be narrow is this section here. I don't know what I did. I got it right for the first one. Like the first one I did exactly to pattern, but maybe I got a little cocky or something, who knows, but I definitely started to make mistakes with the second row. And the third row, it was like, okay, Rachel, maybe rewatch the tutorial videos because it seems a lot thinner and you don't have the right amount of stitches on your needles. And then by the time I got to this part here, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to fudge it all because I'm all over the place. Didn't take the time out to watch the tutorial. And plus I did not have the right amount of stitches on my needles. So I had to do a lot of increasing, which I probably should have did early on in the pattern. So nevertheless, I made some mistakes, and I even considered frogging it back. But then I thought about it. This is like the tail. And I know how I wear my shawls. Not that I have a ton of them. I definitely wear with the little tail hanging out. And this can be that little piece I'm tucking in. It's fine. This part, the ribbing, I didn't think I was going to enjoy this. I genuinely thought with the ribbing I was going to be like, boo, because ribbing can be a little crazy. And believe it or not, I actually like the back side more than I like the front side, but that's another story for another day. I get it, but this is kind of calling me. But anywho, I enjoy the ribbing, and I usually am not a big fan of ribbing, but I got really into this and I did not want to put it down. Probably one of the reasons why my finger was hurting. I told my husband and myself that the reason why my index finger was hurting was due to the fact that I feel like I jammed it while I was at work, but it also could be because I was flicking it a lot to do this beautiful ribbing, which came out so lovely. So I'm very, very proud of that. Then the next section is doing this plaid. Now, I've never did plaid before in any of my knitting projects before, so this is the first time. So I'm having a really good time with this, and I just want to keep knitting because I want to see how it's going to play out, because I was definitely second guessing myself. There's no way in the world I'm doing this correctly. And then the audiobook I was listening to at the time was really getting me captivated. So I was just like, I can't. Karen Slaughter's new book, I didn't even look at the title of it. I just saw that Karen Slaughter's name was there, and I immediately just requested that on Libby, and as soon as it came ready to borrow, I borrowed it and like got lost in my knitting room. So nevertheless, I definitely wasn't paying quite as much attention in the middle here. So this is definitely not looking to pattern, but the rest of it is looking to pattern. So hopefully I will fix that as we're moving on. And it looks like I need to start using a longer cord too. And as soon as I finish my Ooey Gooey, I have a longer cord I can use. So my coming together shawl is coming together quite nicely, and I'm really excited about the next phases with it. However, I also am curious about the Stephen West shawl, because I have yet to successfully knit a Stephen West pattern, because again, I get so distracted by my fiber fever, which brings me to the next project I want to talk to you about. The Make Along Ready for Fall by Locatelli is one of my favorite knit alongs I like to do. And one of the reasons why I enjoy it, I just like the conversation that happens in the Ravelry forum, and just the positivity and the words of encouragement, especially if you're having like a bad day. It is definitely the best place to get a little pick me up. So with that said, I really want to knit this pattern and be successful at knitting the Hoagie Locatelli knit along. You do a submission, you go through all her patterns, and you decide out of all the patterns that she has available, which is quite a bit, you decide which one that you want to do. You enter your project form, and then once the project submissions close, there's a Google document with your username, and you will locate your pattern and you'll get a project number assigned to it. And then you go onto your Ravelry, you create a Ravelry project page, and you have your project number with whatever name you want to call the project listed there, and you just move forward with knitting. It's amazing. It's easy. You should do it. Well, maybe next year because the submission closed. So I decided to cast on for the scoop. Had it on my needles. I love the yarn I selected for it, but I wasn't really feeling the fabric. I just felt it was too dense. It wasn't like really calling to me, and it wasn't giving me the drape that I like in my yarn. I like some drape. So I kept looking back at it. You should have seen me. I was knitting my Ooey Gooey, and I would look at it. I was like, no, I don't really like the fabric. I love the yarn, and I love the colors and how they pair together. But I just don't really like the yarn, and I'm literally sitting here just rocking back and forth, just telling myself, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't frog it, don't frog it. I frogged it. So I ended up frogging the yarn, and again, on that quiet ride, dropping my sons off and having that fiber moment where it's just like the fever is getting the best of me. I need to figure out what to do with this pattern. I figured it out. So I decided that I had some beautiful Voldavine yarn that's called that's her DK Smitten. And although the scoop calls for a sport weight yarn, I definitely think the DK will work because it has the same gauge, I believe. I noticed when I did a little swatch a long time ago, it was working quite well, and I was like, oh, it didn't work for the pattern I had swatched for, but it could potentially work for others. And I remember just that feeling. Plus, I figured if I'm not happy with the swatch with the recommended needles, I can always go up or down the needle size if I wanted to get it to the measurement that Hoagie had suggested. Plus, I have a better sense, especially when it's a circular yoke. I find that to be much easier or drop circular and drop shoulder. I find it to be much easier for me to change the gauge as I'm knitting the pattern. I'm not quite there yet with raglan sweaters. I don't know why. I've made several raglan sweaters, but for whatever reason, I'm not as skilled yet with making adjustments to the raglan increase in order for it to fit my body type, because you want to make sure you have enough arm depth as well, and you don't want to have it where it's like too much. And I also noticed that with the recommended size for her patterns that I would prefer for myself, that it would probably be better for me to go up a size in the beneath the bust, but be at a smaller size for my chest, because my chest is a little smaller. It's very weird. I took one of her sweater fitting classes, and so I'm going to try to use the math she taught us to make adjustments if needed, but I don't think I'm going to need to. So here are the two yarns I'm going to do. I don't know if you recall a few years ago, she came out with this beautiful sweater, cardigan, and I believe she also has it in a tee called the Elton. The Elton is in a cardigan, is in a sweater, is in a tee. And with the Elton, it looks like you are taking like a yarn, like a solid yarn, non-lace yarn, as one stripe, and then a mohair as the stripe. And it looks just so pretty. I love the airiness of it. And I'm like, gosh, I would love to cast that on. I actually prefer that over the scoop. And so then I was going back and forth with myself. I'm like, what if I take the best of both worlds? Hang on one second. Back in school, now that I'm back at work, I am starting to get all the lovely little cold symptoms. Yay, throat hurts, sneezing all the time, even though I take vitamins every day. It's okay. Anywho, I really, really, really love the Elton, but I didn't purchase it, nor can I change up what pattern I want to do. So I'm like, why don't I take what inspired me about the Elton and apply it to the scoop? And so I'm going to have one color or one yarn as my solid tonal, which is the Voldivine DK Smitten. The color is more like a slate gray. It comes off black on a computer, but it really is more of a like slate. And my contrasting color is Shibui. Remember Shibui? Oh, I find their mohair to be the best. Out of all the mohairs I've ever interacted with, this is the one that's always felt really good on my skin, and I'm really excited to put this into a garment. Now, initially when I was going to cast this on, I was going to start off with this yarn, but I think I'm going to start off with the Shibui because there was also another another pattern that I had looked at that I really loved that I considered casting on, that has mohair all at the top. And I thought that what would be a really good idea is that holding the mohair double and using it at the top and then striping this in there, because you do your stripes pretty quickly, that the mohair won't be the full takeover, because I don't like some sweaters where it's all mohair at the top and non-mohair at the bottom. That's not the look I want to go with. But I like the fact that you start the stripe pattern pretty early. And I think that this is going to be perfect. Just in case I don't like that, because I'm going to do a swatch before I want to see, do I like it? I also have this beautiful yarn that I purchased, I guess about almost 3 years ago. Particular yarn, this is called Threads. The designer or hand dyer is called Megan Nicole. And this is a sport weight yarn. It's about 328 yards. So I'm not going to get as much yardage with this, but I thought about using this for this pattern, holding it with the mohair. So I'm going to cake it up at some point, and I'm going to make a swatch with it. And I'm not allowing myself to cake it up until I have successfully completed my Ooey Gooey, which I'm so close with finishing. But the reason why I am not finishing the Ooey Gooey and I keep getting distracted because of these emails, it is feeding into my fiber fever, which brings me to my next dilemma. Stephen West's Shawl. So I told you about it a little earlier, a few moments ago, but I was like, no, you got the Coming Together Shawl. Well, yesterday, another email came out with the kits from Lego Songs, and I'm like, ooh, Lego Songs? No, don't do this to me. So I'm looking at their kits. I'm looking at the kits from Steven and Penelope. I think there was another kit, that was another email I got with the kit. So I'm just went down the rabbit hole. And I realized that it could be such a fun pattern to do. And Stephen West even identified, go through your stash. If you have yarn in your collection, go through it and see what you can put together. And so I went through my stash and I saw that I had this beautiful yarn that I purchased this summer with the intention of doing a few swatches for the Ooey Gooey. Now, this is all sport weight, and the pattern that he's calling for is a fingering weight. So I would definitely need to change it up there. And second, all the yarn is a 100 grams, and so I would need to buy more 50 grams of each one. But the great thing is that with all four skeins of yarn, they were all under $7. And so this was a total of, when I paid for it, was a total of $24.25 with taxes added to it. So I definitely think that this is affordable. And could you imagine knitting a whole shawl by Stephen West for less than 50 bucks? I think it's going to happen. So although I told myself I wasn't going to add anything else, the fiber fever is getting the best of me. So it's going to most likely happen with this yarn. Another thing happened. So Hoagie Locatelli has this little thing called a September challenge. And with the September challenge, your goal is to finish one of the projects that you had cast on already that is was designed by her, or another project that you've been meaning to finish, but it's just been sitting, waiting for you to finish, or a project like you're like, oh, I need to do it, I need to do it. So for me, it's a 1 weekend sock. I love this pattern. I did it last year for the knit along, and just had such a great time. And I ended up giving the socks, not last year, I guess. Yeah, I guess it was last year. No, 2 years ago. But anyway, I ended up giving the socks to my sister-in-law, but I loved those socks. They came out so nice. So I'm thinking I'm going to cast on a pair for myself. I have this beautiful yarn from I'm going to say it right this year, Farmer's Daughter Fibers. And so I have this yarn that I purchased. I don't remember why. I genuinely don't. I wish I could tell you why I purchased this yarn, but I don't, but I did. And I'm like, this will be a perfect sock weight yarn to make a pair of DK weight socks. And then I remembered I had this leftover mohair from Lego Sans that I purchased at Pick Up Every Stitch back in 2023, I want to say. And so yes. So this is going to bring that magic back again. I'm so excited about that. So this is going to happen. I was actually thinking about, if I don't love this, which I do, I can always end up taking this beautiful skein of yarn and turning it into a pair of socks as well, because I definitely know once I cake this up, this is going to be gorgeous. I'm casting on a pair of socks. I want to do a pair of socks that I know I can do, that will build up my confidence, so I can go back to Sparks and I'm going to knock it out. I know I can. I feel it. I know I can, because I'm going to knit those socks, because again, the fiber fever is getting to me. So that's happening. In addition to the scoop and the 1 weekend socks, I'm also knitting the Instant Crush. So the Instant Crush, I can see why people really enjoy this, because this was hard to put down. The whole goal was just to cast it on and to do a couple of rounds of the collar. That was it. Child, I did the whole collar, the short rolls. Look at it. I know it's all scrunched up on the needle, so you can't really tell. I even started the color work. I didn't mean to start the color work pattern. I wasn't supposed to start the color work pattern until October. That's my October challenge for myself, to do the color work pattern, because I know I'll be finished with the scoop by the time I'm ready to knock this out. But my fingers just couldn't put this down. And I initially was going to use some mohair that I purchased from Stephen and Penelope. It's like this golden color, but I found that it just blended. Oh no, it was the gold for it that came with this kit, but I found it just blended a little too well with with this yarn. I don't even know what to call it, like a rust. And so I didn't like that. I like my color work to really pop, and I'm holding it the way you're supposed to or whatnot, but it wasn't bright enough for me. It wasn't distinguished. So for me, I decided to try my luck with this Ronin leftover yarn that I had that's sitting in my stash, and I'm like, I really like the way those two look together, and it's going to give it that little bit of a pop that I really want it to do. And because otherwise I'm going to end up switching to a pink yarn, and I don't want to do that. So I'm happy to report that that is still on the needles, and I just want to work on it so much. It was very, very hard to put that down. If it wasn't for the fact I had to put my children to bed, I would have been still knitting on that when that was on my needles. This past Sunday was like, I want to knit everything. And so that was happening. There was some more. There was another cast on. Let me show you. At work, everybody and their mothers having children. And so I decided to go ahead and cast on a baby's blanket for one of my coworkers. I was going to wait until, I don't know, like around November. But again, this Sunday, I think, is when the fiber fever just really started to take over. So I ended up starting a new crochet project. Oops. So I gave myself an hour and a half. I told myself, you can only work on this for an hour and a half. So an hour and a half on Sunday, I picked my yarn, and this is what I made. This is the progress I made so far. And I'm so proud of myself that usually I have to watch a tutorial to remember how to do a corner to corner blanket, but not this time. It's becoming second nature to me. It's pretty much my go-to whenever I'm crocheting a baby's blanket. So I'm really pleased with the colors I chose. He didn't have a preference about which color choice I went with, so I went through my stash, and I remembered I had this beautiful skein of yarn from one of my students. They gave it to me as a gift at the end of the year for writing my letter of recommendation. And then I had this other yarn that I purchased from Michael's for another baby's blanket, or was it for my Yorkshire blanket? It could be for either one, but I have one skein of this one skein of this, and I have 2 skeins of this. So I have more than enough yarn in order to make a full baby's blanket. And I'm not going to make it too big. It will definitely cover my lap, by the time I'm done. I meant to say done, not fun. So by the time I'm done, it should be able to cover my lap. So I'm very happy with that, with the progress I made so far with that. That is not a pattern I'm following. I know how to do the corner to corner stitch. And so I just go, that's my go-to blanket. Whenever I'm making babies blankets, occasionally I will do either a solid granny square, or I might do a two-color granny square. It just depends on either the yarn or just how much time I have. And given that I don't have as much time because I need to focus on my knitting, I wanted to at least get that going. So that is up and going. We'll see what that will look like. I should have it finished by the end of October. If I work on it every Sunday for at least an hour to two, it will definitely be finished by the end of October as well. So let me tell you about the spinning. So I mentioned at my last video that I'm the fiber fever got a hold of me, and I purchased all the things necessary in order to become a spinner myself. Not all the things, there's still some more. So at the class, we learned how to make our own bat. I wish you didn't, because now I want to make all the bats. So this is my bat. It came out so nice. I have a little stellina included, and she had a carder, and also the one that you card with a brush. It was like a square one. And so I took some of the yarn and like fluffed it apart, and then I was able to blend it in, and I want one. I need one. So that came out really nice. I'm really happy with that outcome. And this will be spun into something, I don't know. My spindle and I are still good friends, but there's still some work I need to do. Let me see if I can actually show you what I was able to spin up. I don't remember what I did with it, because I actually was starting to get the hang of it, but now I don't remember where I put it. That's the problem. Too many projects. Too many projects. Because I literally lost one of my projects. So I have too many. Way too many. Okay. Well, it's in here. Maybe you know what? I'm going to insert a picture of myself holding it, because I did make some actual progress with it. I'm very proud of myself. So made some progress. I'm getting much better at it. Will I keep spindle spinning? Absolutely. It is a delight. Will I work on it right now? No. However, what I really want an electric spinner. I do. I tried the spinning wheel and I enjoyed it, but I'm not very good with hand and eye coordination, and I feel like I would ruin too many pieces of yarn. Whereas with the electric spinner, since I don't have to coordinate using my feet and only with my hands, it will give me an opportunity to really practice drafting, because that's the big thing. I have the pulling it apart and I have the ability to thin it out. The issue is with drafting. And so I need to get better at that, because I'm fine at letting it go here. Like I'm fine when I need to do this and let the spin come through. But where the issue is just letting it draft out. So I'm hoping maybe with an electric splinter I can get a little bit better with that. I'm trying to wait until we go to Rhinebeck, because I know they always have an opportunity for you to practice with this spinning wheel and before purchase. So that's what my knitting buddy and that's our goal, to buy an electric spinner, because I really don't want any yarn. I know I said this every year, but I genuinely don't want any yarn. I have so many yarns dedicated for specific projects that I don't really need it. And so I'm going there, A, for the camaraderie. B, I also want some of those fancy soaps that sometimes you have at those craft fairs, and candles. So the soap and the candles, and I hope to see an electric spinner that will be user friendly and that it will be coming home with me, which is about the same amount of money I would be spending on yarn. So it's a win-win, because I'm making yarn and I have plenty of wool to turn into yarn. So again, it's a win-win. So very, very excited about my upcoming Rhinebeck trip where I can have that. So that fiber fever is still there. Luckily, it has taped down to about here, where everything else, it seems like, is right here. So in addition to crocheting and knitting and spinning, I've also been obsessing about embroidery and how to do quilting. So I've been watching those podcasts that talk about quilting, and I've also been watching people who I know how to quilt because I really, really want to get into quilting. I haven't purchased anything. I'm not about to whip out anything. I just wanted to share that that is another fiber that my brain is starting to think more and more about and how I can integrate it, bring it into my life. So one way I'm helping myself kind of like taper it down because I cannot take on another craft is by doing either the stellar pincushion again, or I found this free quilted square pattern that was shared on Ravelry a few days ago that I might just go ahead and make a blanket because I haven't knitted a blanket in a really long time. I made only one in my career, and it didn't give me that good vibe and great feeling. I would love to try it again. So we'll see about that. There is one other thing I wanted to show you actually that I believe. Oh, see, I knew I had it. Here it is. Here is the first. Here is my first piece of yarn that I was able to spin. Here we go. I don't know what to do with the end part of it. I got this far, but I don't know what to do. Like when you're done spinning, like what happens? So I need to figure that part out. Otherwise, it's going to become woven yarn. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to show you all. What I wanted to show you seems to have disappeared, so never mind. It's probably enough show and tell for today. So just to recap, fiber fever has taken over my life. I have multiple whips on my needles with a desire of adding more. I really want to knit some additional sweaters, and with the weather that we're having right now is like so perfect for just sitting and being cozy and knitting, drinking some wonderful hot tea or whatever other beverage you like, and just listening to a good audiobook or watching a good movie with family and while making something beautiful with your hands. So I just cannot wait just to do that. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to say thank you so much for listening to my fiber fever tales. Hopefully there is a cure for this fever because there seems to be no satisfaction of ending my desire to knit something. So I am going to get back to it. I'm like looking to make sure all my projects are where they need to be. I hope that you have something on your needles or on your hook or in your fingers if you're using a needle, that is bringing you joy and that is satisfying your desire to craft. And I can't wait to share with you updates about my future projects. Stay tuned.